Very good morning to you, Gavin, and thank you so much for your time. So what exactly is this IT interruption that has been seen?
Good morning, Marina, and good morning to all your viewers this early Sunday morning. I suppose not that early anymore. Well, what seems to have happened is the IT infrastructure, the program that is used to note which boxes, what we call boxes, containers, or which goods are coming in and out of the ports in South Africa, seems to have collapsed. Now, what was said initially 2 days ago was that somebody had hacked it, and by hacking, I don't know if that means they've got into the program to see what sort of goods are moving, because obviously that's a security issue. If you can see, for example, if a container of TVs has come in and where it is and when it is leaving and where it's going, or whether it's just something that has collapsed the whole administrative process. So it is key to allowing trucks to drive up to the ports, pick up the containers or whatever other goods, and then drive out and deliver them where they need to go. A very, very important piece of IT administration.
So you don't think, Gavin, that this has any links to the recent unrest and, of course, the attack on the freight industry?
Well, Marina, that's a good question. I would love to believe no, it doesn't. This is just coincidental. Hopefully it's just an archaic system that hasn't been maintained, and I say that, and that's not something very nice, but hopefully it's just something like that. If it was a planned attack, well then we've got serious problems, and the first question is going to be how are we going to deal with this in the next week, coming days. We need to get those ports emptied because obviously they're already being congested due to the protest. And then secondly, how are we going to prevent this going forward? And if it is something dastardly and nasty and underhand, then are those culprits going to be held to book?
I'm glad you bring up the archaic system. And I mean, I know you do say that it sounds like a mean thing to say, but these are the realities of, just South Africa in general, where you are susceptible to being hacked, and therefore you need to be upgrading your system. So therefore, who is responsible for that, Gavin? Who's responsible for making sure that a system is upgraded, is up to date, and ensures that these kinds of things don't happen?
Well, Marina, like you and I, it depends on who owns the system and who's implementing the system. So at home, you would want to make sure your current version of the operating system for your PCs is up to date. So you do weekly updates or whatever the case may be, and the same would be here. This would be Transnet. Transnet has been communicating that it's their system that's down. So it is Transnet together with perhaps the Ports Authority might have an involvement. But again, it is an authority of government that just doesn't seem to have kept up, if this is the real issue, kept up with the changes.
Now, if they do manage to get into the system and they do manage to follow and track exactly how certain deliveries and certain cargo is moving, that of course does put risk on, let's say, if we're going to bring it down to the truck driver and his safety, because that would mean that people are trying to attack the truck and take what it is that is on it.
Correct. I mean, this is the exact point that we've raised a number of times. Whenever there's unhappiness in the country and there's a protest, whether it's service delivery or now something that looked politically motivated or whatever the case may be, the first target are trucks. And why? Because they have goods and they have value and they can be looted. So if you can get your fingers into the system and you can find out which truck is leaving when and what it's got, that's just the wonderful blessing from heaven for any hijacker, because now you don't have pot luck. You know exactly which vehicle, what time it's moving, where it's going, so you have an idea of the route, and you can now really hone in your looting skills.
Authorities are said to be investigating this attack. Gavin, do you know how far they may be with it? Are you in communication? Are you guys being spoken to and kept up to date with everything?
Well, the only communication we're getting, Marina, is that they have gone into a manual system to allow us to move, because obviously we need to get that port empty, A, for the exports, and B, for the imports coming in, to get them out so that that port doesn't then have a huge delay that's now going to take us a couple of weeks again. But they're not keeping us up to date exactly on what they're doing with the program, and rightly so. We have asked a number of questions. One, obviously, when is it going to be in operation? But more importantly, we said, okay, how are we going to fix this going forward? And how can we support you in terms of that? I mean, there's plenty of IT companies out there that can assist you if this is something that is not a malicious attack.
And just very quickly, Gavin, we are out of time. I just need a figure. We've, of course, been hearing that the KZN government, for example, suffered about a 20 billion rand loss in terms of the unrest that took place. And, of course, the education sector suffering about 300 million rands in damages. The Freight Association, what kind of numbers are you guys looking at?
Well, just in terms of assets, we've just crossed the 500 million mark. I know that doesn't sound a lot, but of course it's going to be the contracts and the moving of goods through South Africa that's going to be of concern. So going down the line, we might suddenly see people moving to other countries where it's safer, maybe even more affordable, and we could see the economy being hit by something like 2 or 3 or 4 billion rand in a couple of years. Overall, in terms of logistics, I think we've hit at about 1.5 million rand in terms of overall damages. 1.5 billion rand.
It may not sound like big numbers to some people, but those are massive numbers in just the bigger scheme of things, considering this was unrest that happened in about a week and a half. But thank you very much, Gavin, for joining us here on Newsnight. That is Gavin Kelly from the Road Freight Association.